Hello and welcome to another edition of Start Select, the video game show from our studio here in London. Coming up in this edition of the show, we're going to be heading out into London, into a fake forest to talk to the developers of Alan Wake. I'll also be inviting THQ down into this very studio for a brand new look at the impressive Metro 2033.
And we've also got winners of our Bioshock 2 competition to announce, as well as a new competition this time to win copies of Half Minute Hero on PSP and exclusive t-shirts.
But with that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Alright guys, we're incredibly privileged today to be joined by Hugh from THQ and the author Dmitry Glukhovsky, who is the author of the book Metro 2033. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
So we're going to be running through the game, which you brought in to show us on the Xbox 360 as well.
That's right.
We're now very close to release on Metro 2033. Just give us a bit of background about the game.
Well, Metro 2033 is this cinematic, linear, first-person adventure. It uses a combination of first-person shooter mechanics, very light role-playing elements in there, and we've borrowed Dimitri's incredible storyline plot to develop a really rich game world.
My name is Artyom. For 20 years, the Moscow Metro has been our prison, our fortress, our home. I was destined to live out my life here. I was destined to die here. But the day Hunter returned, nothing would be the same again.
So we're picking this up at the beginning of the game. You play as Artyom. He's a young man at this stage, and this is his home station of exhibition.
That's right. So this is the third level in the game. You've just been entrusted your mission from the ranger known as Hunter. So this is Artyom's room. There are a few incidental details around there. That's the lead artist up on the wall. If we pan over here, we can see the cover of Dimitri's book.
In
Russian. In its original Russian. So Artyom's home station is one of the more benign stations. It's relatively a pleasant place to live. You'll encounter stations run by extremist groups, so neo-Nazis, fascists along the way that you'll either need to infiltrate, even become involved in a war against. In this early level, what we really wanted to do was create a sense of the game world. So drawing upon Dimitri's book and the background, the level of detail that he put into this post-apocalyptic Russian game world, the developers have taken all of that background information and turned it into this really immersive, interactive experience as you see here. So
just like to add that the uniqueness of this world is that there's a world, like a new civilization created on the rubble of the old civilization. Basically, it doesn't produce anything new. It just parasites on what they could gather from the old world. Yeah. So and the currency, the system like bullets or ammo as currency is borrowed from the book, because the assumption is that in this world that basically has no tomorrow, has no today, has no future, no hope, the only really valuable thing is a bullet, like is an ammo.
So Hugh, you've left exhibition now. You're leaving anyway.
Yeah.
Tell us what what mission you're embarking on here.
So at this point, I've told my stepfather that I'm simply embarking on a mercy mission to Riga to carry some supplies, whereas in fact I have no intentions of returning promptly afterwards. I'm going to be making my way somehow further on to Polis.
Slow down, guys. Military caravan got stuck near Alexeyevskaya. A tunnel collapsed, rather shit. You have to use a service tunnel bypassing Alexeyevskaya.
A lot of the things we've tried to do with this game is that complete immersion into the game world. So doing away with any kind of HUD or menu screens wherever possible. If I want to check my objectives, for instance, it's not a menu screen or a back screen. I actually pull out my objectives, which is here on this map. If it's too dark to read, I can flick open my lighter to view it. So it's a real physical thing in the game world that doesn't break your sense of immersion. And similarly, my gas mask, you can see me putting that on over my head there. You can see cracks around the edges. It'll begin to frost up. If I want to check the time, I visibly look at my watch. I'm going to take it off now though, because I only have a limited supply of filters.
And that's for when you are going outside above the above ground.
So above ground, and also certain areas underground where the air might be toxic. So relatively safe.
Boris, What's happening to me?
Yeah, now in this sequence his companions are affected by this psychic phenomena in the tunnel, which Artyom is curiously immune to, and this is one of the key devices within the plot, and the reasons for that will become apparent as you play through the game. We don't want to say too much about it now, but
sure.
This is one of Artyom's dream sequences, and the threat that you're warning Polis about in the game are these mutants, the Dark Ones. They're a new strain of mutant. They attack psychically. When they encounter human beings, they leave them broken, quivering wrecks, and a few days later they die. Artyom seems to be immune to the effects of these Dark Ones, and throughout the game you'll begin to have these rather abstract visions, some of which you'll begin to be able to interact with within the game, which makes you wonder really what's different about Artyom.
And his importance in the world becomes, well, he becomes more valuable to the other people because I think, as one of the characters says, he isn't affected by the weird stuff.
Yeah, so his reputation for safely guiding them through this level will precede him, and when they meet up in the bar at the other end, his reputation has already preceded him as the guy who can get you through the tunnel safely. Right. That becomes a key plot device for some of the following chapters in the game.
The accident as well, which I believe you don't know too much about at the beginning of the game, what happened to kind of devastate the world, but that has produced some mutated animals as well.
That's right. So you know, the Metro is a pretty hostile place. It's essentially a microcosm of human civilization with all of its flaws laid bare, but as well as a very real human threat, these different factions of communists and neo-Nazis. You also have a sizable mutant population to contend with, and in this level you'll see some of them.
Take the ladders, come on! Save me! Artyom, take my shotgun! Here!
The Dark Ones are not simple mutants. They're Homo Novus, the next step in evolution. You've heard about survival of the fittest? Guess what? We lost.
Well, that certainly looks great, but I'll tell you what, it certainly hasn't been under development for about 20,000 years. Luckily though, this week I was invited to see a game which has. It's called Alan Wake, and they built a fake plastic forest to invite us down to see it in. Alan Wake, from the developers of Max Payne. 5 long years in the making, and starring a man who uses a flashlight. We're here in central London in this virtual Bright Falls to find out more about the game, play the game, and talk to developers Remedy, so let's go and see it in action.
My name is Alan Wake. I'm a writer.
Alan Wake's a best-selling writer who hasn't managed to write anything in a couple of years, and then when his wife goes missing, Alice, on their vacation, his search turns up pages of a thriller novel that he doesn't remember writing, which is now coming true. So it's a psychological action thriller. We've combined the mind of a psychological thriller with the body of a cinematic action game. Alan Wake's the brainchild of Sam Lake, our lead writer, and you know, from the start, Sam has wanted to make these characters more than cardboard cutouts. So we want to really push the envelope in storytelling in video games, and part of that is making these the story as well as the characters realistic and feel like real people. And you know, for instance, we'll start off with Wake. I mean, Wake has problems. He's a regular guy that has regular problems. He has problems in his marriage, problems in his work, and you know, we really wanted to give you know, depth to Alan Wake as well. So there are scenes in the game where you know, we take a flashback to much later on in Wake's life. Much earlier on in Wake's life, where you know, we're back at New York when everything was fine, and his marriage with Alice was fine, and he was doing great in his work, and he was writing, and to give that extra depth to the character as well. I mean, we even have TV sets within the game where you can turn on the TV set, and in this particular scene you get to see a talk show of Alan Wake on a Jay Leno or Conan O'Brien type show, and we use real actors for that to give that real depth. But yeah, you're right, there's a huge supporting cast around Wake himself. There's Barry, Wake's literary agent. He's a bit of a comic relief in the midst of gloom and doom. You need that comic relief in a thriller as well. It's important because the player will get immune to thriller and action over action. You need the comic relief to kind of mellow that out and balance the pacing. And you know, there's a lot of characters there. We've got I mean, the cast is like that of a TV series like Lost, for instance, or 24. And yeah, it was a good catch that you noticed that the Wake's enemies, the locals that have been taken over by the Dark Presence, are also mumbling a lot. What's happening there is that whilst they're taken over by the Dark Presence, there's still a glimpse of their previous life still in them. So, you know, if they were a mechanic before, they might talk about spark plugs or fixing cars. If they were fishmongers, they might talk about, you know, fish having a healthy diet or something along those lines. So there's, even though they're taken over by this Dark Presence, there's still a glimpse of their previous life still there. This is an action game after all, and you know, for lack of a better word, there's different types of consumption in the way people play games. And you know, a Remedy game is a single-player, story-driven experience. At the same time, a Remedy game is a cinematic movie-like action game. Concerning the PC version, we're a relatively small studio, so we're fully focused on the Xbox 360 version, and for a small studio, it is important for us to focus. We've got nothing to announce on a PC version. My name's Oscar Hakkinen, and we've been talking about Alan Wake. Alan Wake's going to be out on May 21st in spring. Go get it.
I'm Alan Wake, the writer.
Alright, on the last edition of the show, you may remember we had one of these to give away, the ultra special edition Bioshock 2, which me and Mark are lovingly stroking right now. You also had the chance to win a number of limited edition goodies. Money can't buy prizes, including key rings,
water bottles, Eve hypos, and badges, loads of stuff. The
complete set, basically, if you're a Bioshock fan. We also had 4 copies of the official Brady Games guide to give away. All you had to do was answer this question: what is the name of the all-powerful founder of Rapture? The answer is Andrew Ryan. And our big winner of the special edition and all those goodies that we talked about earlier is Sean Main from Berghead. We also got the 4 runners-up, who are Jamie Cottage from Cambridge, Ben Summers from Lower Kingswood, Nicholas Barnes from Kent, David Keeber from Leicester, and Hewin Neo from Newcastle. Congratulations, guys. We'll get all those prizes out to you ASAP. This week, thanks to Rising Star Games, we have 5 copies of the excellent Half-Minute Hero to give away on the PlayStation Portable. Now, we recently reviewed the game at an 8.0 on the site, and it's finally made its way onto the UK following its release last year in the States. We've got 5 copies of the game to give away, as well as 5 exclusive t-shirts, as long as you can answer this question.
What is the name of the developer behind the game? If you know the answer, send it to competitions@gamespot.co.uk before the 9th of March, and we'll draw the winners on the next edition of the show.
Now let's go and join the annoyingly successful Dmitry Glukovsky to talk about what it was like bringing his book Metro 2033 to the small screen. Alright, so Hugh, this is a section from the prologue, the intro to the game. So
yeah, this is actually the very first level within the game. We take a storytelling technique where we throw you 8 days into the future, and then you come back and you play those opening levels that you've seen just now, and basically find out how you got to be a young man in his home station, tooled up to the hilt with military grade weapons, with your companion here on a bid to effectively save what's left of humanity.
Ooh, seems like nobody's home.
And so was it, did you come up with the idea for the book? I heard there was a story about the underground system in Moscow being able to house, in theory...
yeah, it's not just not being able, in theory, to house the refugees. Moscow subway, it's a huge underground system, and it was constructed on purpose as the world's biggest nuclear bunker. The stations are located like dozens of meters, well, hundreds of feet below the ground, below the ground, and they constructed as almost as autonomous nuclear shelters, and they all linked into a huge network. A part of the
stations of Moscow Metro. There are more than 170 of them. There are about 200 real bunkers, like belonging to ministries of defense, of the special services, the administration of the president, and so on and so on. 200 of them in Moscow and Moscow district. And they're also connected to the subway system, which makes actually Moscow Metro, together with these separate bunkers, a huge underground city. The real new age Noah's Ark, meant to salvage the humanity, the mankind, in case of a new apocalypse. And so when I learned that, I was completely amazed. I was back in school back then. I was 17, and I used to take these daily rides, as I said, from my home to my school, like 1 hour each direction. Well, during these rides, I started to imagine all that, and I started to write the book when I was about 18 or 19 years old. And yeah, the book was completed when I was 25. First published when I was 25.
And since then, since it's been published, there's been a follow-up. You were telling me you've got other writers working within the universe as well. So it's
it's a very recent thing. Following Metro 33, there was a book, Metro 34, that I have written and published. Then I decided that I don't want to stay in this universe forever and ever. I should not be handcuffed to this plot. But there were some young authors, well, not young, but younger than me, let's say, who were very much enthusiastic about the plot and who wanted to write their spin-offs. And then the audience, which is, as I said, quite big in Russia right now, they asked me to give them some new stories about that. Then I just decided to make audience and writers meet each other, and just to overview the entire process. So right now we have launched like a franchise. Other young authors are writing their texts.
So your book's being published pretty soon in English?
Well, it comes actually in a month's time. It's going to be released simultaneously with the game. Mm-hmm. And there are 2 editions. That's the collector's one, the hardback. Yeah, and the publisher is pretty much enthusiastic about the prospects. So let's hope that it will work in UK as well as good as it worked in Germany.
Glad to see you, Colonel. Did you hear that? Listen. What the hell is it?
Great stuff. And the game is out pretty much the same timeline. It's out next month now?
Yeah, so the game is released on the 19th of March in the UK, 16th of March in the US and Germany, and 19th of March pretty much everywhere else around the world.
And it's hitting the Xbox 360 and PC.
Xbox 360
now,
and PC.
a lot of questions we've had about multiplayer on this. It's predominantly a single-player story.
It's absolutely single-player, story-driven. So, you know, there have been precedents like this in the past. I'm not sure what we really would have added by putting multiplayer onto this game. By concentrating on that single-player, we've let the developers just focus 100% on creating the very best and best value single-player experience they can. So, you know, we're very happy about that.
Great stuff. Well, I'm sure you've got some plot twists and turns that we haven't seen yet, so I'm looking forward to playing the finished game. And you can catch it on in March
19th.
All right, you Red Scum. Offer a prayer to your marks or whoever.
All right, thanks very much for joining us on another edition of Start Select. Remember, you can head over to the official GameSpot UK Twitter page. It's twitter.com/GameSpotUK for all of the updates from us and the rest of the team. Mark, you're also on Twitter.
I am indeed. It's twitter.com/MarkAlexWalton.
And I'm at Guy Cocker. If you want to find out more about the details of how to join our community game nights, we're holding the MAG Community Game Night this week, but there'll be more coming. That's pretty much it for us, though, this week. We'll see you again next time on Start Select.